Hi guys, it's Sarah Todd. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my spinal fusion surgery story. So if you want to see what this wax spine of mine ended up looking like after my surgery, make sure you watch till the end of the video. For those of you who don't know, a spinal fusion surgery is a surgery to correct scoliosis. Scoliosis is the curvature of the spine. Clearly, I had some pretty bad scoliosis. At the time of my surgery, my curve was at about 80 degrees, which is really extreme scoliosis. So I was in desperate need of a spinal fusion surgery. I had my surgery done almost 4 years ago now. I had it done August 30th, 2016 at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland. So I did have this surgery out of town, which made it an even bigger deal. And I was in 9th grade at the time. So I only went to the first 4 days of school before I had to fly to Baltimore for my pre-op, and then I stayed there for a few days before my surgery, and I was in Baltimore for a whole month for my surgery, and then I recovered a bit at home. So I missed most of term 1 of 9th grade, which was a real challenge for me, but I was able to get through it. I had really bad scoliosis because when I was 8 years old, I became paralyzed from the neck down. I have been fortunate enough to make a pretty good recovery, but my neck muscles are really weak, and since I was at the prime time age for growth when I was 8 and I was holding my neck crooked because my neck muscles were so weak, my neck ended up growing crooked. And at first this wasn't really much of a big deal. My family was monitoring it. I had a checkup about once a year for my scoliosis, and I saw a lot of different doctors for it. We were told that there was only about a 2% chance that it would become a problem when I was about 10 years old, which obviously was wrong. Obviously, because it did end up becoming a massive problem. It got so bad that I was in pain basically 24/7. Little over-the-counter medicines like Advil and Aleve wouldn't really do anything at all. I had my occupational and physical therapist do some neck massage, and that helped a little bit, but not really. And heat pads didn't work, so I was basically miserable. It was so hard for me to do schoolwork because looking down hurt, and it got so bad to the point that I couldn't even really walk without it hurting. A month before I had my surgery, my mom and I were in New York, and I basically couldn't do anything on the trip. The trip was kind of a bust. We still had fun, but I had a lot of trouble walking around the city, which I normally didn't have trouble with. So that was a big bummer. Aside from all those struggles though, my surgery did actually end up becoming kind of an emergency surgery because I had this weird complication that like no one could really figure out, but basically, a few months before I was scheduled to have my surgery, I woke up one day and I couldn't move what muscles I had left in my left arm. Since I became paralyzed when I was 8, I haven't been able to move my left arm from the forearm down, so I can't move my left hand or my forearm really, and I can't really move my left shoulder. But I had some muscles in my left arm that worked, and those muscles stopped working one day. The only thing that we could think of was it had to be because of the scoliosis, because it would have just been so random. And my surgeon ended up determining that he thought it was most likely a stretch injury because with my scoliosis, my neck was pushed so far to the right, which meant that the muscles and nerves that were trying to reach my left arm weren't working anymore because they had been stretched so far to the right. So that was terrifying to not be able to move what little muscle I had left in my left arm. So I really did need this surgery, and we were really hustling to get it on the calendar. I was 14 years old when I had my surgery. I was a little freaked out about it because I knew it was a big deal and I knew it was going to be a massive surgery. But since I was in so much pain, I really was honestly more excited about it than I was freaked out. I was just so ready to be out of my pain and feel better. But I knew there was a risk of paralysis if a tool accidentally touched my spinal cord while my doctor was operating on my spine, so I was worried about that. But I knew he was a really good doctor, so I trusted him. Since it was still a possibility, I was just a little worried about it. I had already been paralyzed from the neck down once in my life. I still had paralysis in areas of my arms and hands. I just didn't want that to happen again. So since it was a possibility, I did worry about it a bit, but not that much since, like I said, I really trusted my doctor. The morning of my surgery, it took the nurses a few tries to get my IV in, which really seems to happen all the time with me. I think I just have really bad veins. But yeah, so after they got the IV in, they sent me to the OR, and And it was kind of terrifying going in the room awake because it's a huge room and there was a guy in there already organizing all the tools and I could hear like the metal clanking, and that freaked me out a bit, like knowing that those tools were going to be used on me. That was just like really creepy and just kind of scary, but tried to ignore it. They also had my x-rays on the wall, like they were being projected on the wall from a computer, and that was pretty cool to see that. But the OR was kind of creepy, so I didn't really like being in there awake, but I wasn't awake in there for long because then they put the medicine in and I was asleep. And then the surgery took about 8 hours. My mom and dad were waiting very anxiously the whole time. I know that they could not relax because they were so worried about me, but we all trusted my doctor. So deep down, they knew that everything would be fine. And after my surgery, which went well, I didn't even need a blood transfusion or anything, my doctor came and got my parents, and I was in the ICU for that night only. I don't even remember like anything from that night except like looking up and seeing my nurse a little bit. And my mom told me that I woke up every few minutes and I would yell "button," because if they pushed the button it would give me more pain medicine. I don't remember that, but I must have been in some pretty bad pain. And then I was moved to just a normal hospital room for the next 6 nights. And this is so weird. I don't remember this at all, but my mom told me that after the surgery, my right arm kept doing this. Like it was stuck just doing this over and over. And oh my God, my parents said they were like freaking out. They were like, well, so now she's just gonna be stuck like moving her right arm like that for the rest of her life. Like, oh my God, it was so weird. So I had to wear like a brace on my arm to stop it from doing that. And it did stop about 2 days later. And they just kind of inferred that it was like my body freaking out because all my nerves and muscles were now in a new place. My whole body had basically been rearranged. So that's probably why I was freaking out. And since I already have a spinal cord injury, the whole process of having the surgery was much different than for people who don't have spinal cord injuries. But yeah, that happened. And then since I was on such heavy pain drugs, I had the weirdest hallucinations. Oh my God. I literally had one where my mom was like freaking out because the sprinklers in the hospital room were pouring lemonade everywhere. And I started laughing because I thought it was real. So weird. I also had one when my mom was pushing me around the hospital in my wheelchair. And we were by these like weird abstract paintings in the hospital. I thought we were by an elevator and I thought there was a little kid in front of it. And I was like, Mom, don't run over that little boy by the elevator. And we weren't by an elevator or a little boy. It was so weird. Like I thought she was going to push me into a little boy who was in front of an elevator. That was really weird. I would also say stuff like, I want to tell you something, but I'm too lazy to say it, which didn't make any sense because it took me energy to say that. So that was so weird. Those drugs they put you on after surgery are not it. They make you feel awful. And if I had known how awful I was going to feel after surgery, I definitely would not have done it. But it's a good thing that I didn't completely know everything that would happen afterwards because I needed to have that surgery and it basically wasn't a choice because of my left arm. So yeah, it's a good thing that I didn't know. Not knowing all the details is definitely better sometimes. But yeah, it took me a few days to get out of bed and walk around. The PTs and OTs made me sit up in a chair, which was so painful, and I would eventually just fall asleep. And they tried to have me walk around the hospital floor, which was very hard, but once I did it once, I wanted to do it more and more, so I started walking around the floor a little bit more, and recovery was pretty tough. I was in pain all over. For my surgery, they had to go in from the front and the back. So I had a big dressing like right here and big dressings on my back all the way from like the bottom of my skull to nearly my tailbone. And it's pretty tough. So I was in the hospital for 7 nights and then they moved me over to an inpatient rehab center down the street. And I was there for 5 nights and my experience there was awful. Basically like a great nurses and therapists there, but there are no private rooms. So I had a roommate, and living with a roommate is just not conducive to healing. You really need your own privacy when you're trying to recover from surgery. So that made it a lot harder for me. I did not like having to be in that place, but I was only there for 5 nights. And I actually snuck out early with my grandparents. That was a fun time. We call it the Great Escape. I left before my discharge date because I just really wanted to leave and I knew that they would make a fuss if I told them that I wanted to leave early. And I didn't really need to be there anymore. I was only taking Advil for my pain and I was off the narcotics, and I was basically really getting back to normal. I was more out and about, walking around. So my grandparents helped me leave. They helped me and my mom pack up our stuff, and they drove us to the hotel we always stay in when we go to Baltimore. I stayed in that hotel for the next 2 weeks and did outpatient therapy in Baltimore. Outpatient therapy was hard too. I basically had to relearn how to do everything for the third time in my life, because I learned when I was a little kid, I learned after I became paralyzed from the neck down when I was 8, and I was relearning now after my spinal fusion. So I had to relearn how to walk, how to go up and down stairs, how to feed myself, how to do my makeup, because with my body in a new position, I couldn't reach my face as easily as I could before. So that was hard. It was a mess. It was such a big deal. It was really difficult. And while I was doing all of this, I was thinking about catching up at school. I was having friends send me notes and assignments, and I was trying to catch up, which was so hard. But I'm so glad that I did it, because I have regained all the function that I lost because of my scoliosis back in my left arm. My left arm isn't perfect. It's how it was after I became paralyzed from the neck down. So I still can't move my left hand or my forearm or my shoulder really, but I can move those few muscles that I lost because of my scoliosis again. So I'm really thankful for that. I also have some scars now because of my scoliosis. I have this one right here. I think it healed pretty well. It's not even that noticeable, but I honestly don't care if it's noticeable because scars are beautiful. Doesn't matter. And I have the one on my back, which is a huge scar, and I don't really mind that one either. And yeah, my neck is super straight. Here's my after x-ray. I was so pleased with how amazing my doctor was. He literally fixed my scoliosis. It was incredible. I'm really happy with how my surgery turned out. I think I'm really, really fortunate that I had such a great doctor and I was able to have it done at Johns Hopkins, my favorite hospital. I love Hopkins. I've been there about 15 times since I became paralyzed when I was 8. It's such a good place. People there are so smart and hardworking and caring. I love that place. But yeah, that's my story. Hope you guys found this kind of entertaining and interesting at the same time. If you have any questions for me, please do leave them in the comment section down below, and I will maybe take those questions and make another video about this topic for you guys, or maybe include them in a future Q&A video. So yeah. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I am now basically pain-free. My neck does not hurt anymore, really. I have the occasional ache and pain, but it is nothing compared to the pain I had before. So I have a lot less pain now in my neck because I got my surgery, which is incredible, and I'm so thankful for that as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And remember to hit that notification bell so you never miss a video of mine. I post new videos every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern and sometimes Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern. So I hope to see you at the next one. Have a great day, you guys. Bye.